Welcome to Mental Chix land. This is Kay.
This is Jay.
And we're here to kind of talk about mental health, sort of. Not in a really professional way, but more of a real people way. We want to have a conversation.
Yes, we do.
Today I'm going to tell you some things you probably haven't heard of, and they're weird things. And they're about where mental health started. So the very first thing that I can remember learning about was cavemen. Have you ever heard about crazy cavemen?
I haven't even put that together before.
Well, they always found cavemen, not always, but they found often cavemen or bones in skulls with holes. So they finally figured out, after, years of whatever anthropologists do, that there were mental issues with some of the people, and so the cavemen's idea to get rid of it was to get the spirits out of their head. So they would push holes in their skull with rocks and things like that. And so as it went on, the Egyptians thought it was a wandering uterus that caused nuts. So,
really?
Yeah, and the Greek word for uterus was hysteria. So that's why it started to become hysteria or hysterical. And it used to be associated with women.
Wow, that's amazing to think that ancient societies would have those types of stipulations and regulation.
I know,
judgment
right?
calls. Yeah.
I know. And women, I think that's interesting that they only associated it with women. And it makes me wonder, when they found the cavemen people, were they only men?
I doubt it.
I know.
We wouldn't have other little cave creatures if there weren't both sexes.
And it makes me think, well, maybe they were a bunch of women cave people, or else why would they go to the hysteria thing? You know how knowledge kind of bootstraps off each other?
Oh, yeah.
So if the cave people knew that, then you would think the next people in line would know that. I don't know. That's a good question. But basically, what was weird? Hysteria. So hysteria, known as the wandering uterus or the wandering womb theory, kind of led forward to Victorian medical diagnosis. So they started actually using hysteria as a medical diagnosis.
Just because you had a uterus, or...
Yeah.
And they thought it was wandering?
Yeah.
Like, do they really believe it's floating around in your body cavity?
I think so.
Wow.
I know. That's kind of what I thought, too. But anyway, about the early 1600s, the focus shift, and there was a guy named Thomas Willis, and he's the one that figured out that it was not the wandering uterus at all, but it was the brain. There was a brain issue. And technically, didn't the cave people already figure that out?
Well, to a certain extent.
I know, right? So we kind of went away from that. But anyway, Thomas Willis figured it out. And that led him to realize, hey, if it's in the brain, men can be crazy too.
Well, how about that notion?
I know, right? Who would have thunk it? But anyway, that's really where that started. And so hysterical neurosis is what they used to call it. And have you ever heard of the DSM?
Never. I don't know what DSM means.
I don't have it in front of me, but it's the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. It's a psychology book that they use for diagnosing mental illnesses.
Currently?
Yeah, they still do. And I'm not really sure. Somebody out there in Mental Chix land knows. I think we're at least on the 7th version, maybe 6th. I don't know. I've been out of that for a while. Basically, though, in 1968, they put that in there, the hysterical neurosis. So they still use the word hysteria, which I thought was interesting.
Wow.
But, yeah, do you remember hearing about Dr. Kellogg?
Yeah, I've read a little bit
about Dr. Kellogg.
Cornflakes.
Cornflakes, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always thought that there was something to do with sexuality and bowel movements.
Well, it could be embarrassing either way.
That's so true. So that Dr. Kellogg guy, He ran the Battle Creek Sanitarium in Michigan. Do you remember him?
Yes. Yeah.
So, Kellogg's.
I didn't know he was from Michigan.
Yeah. Isn't
Okay.
that wild?
Yeah.
But I know he was into hydrotherapy. I don't know if he had natural springs where he was. It seems like he did. Let's see. There was hydrotherapy. There was dietary therapy. Enemas.
Okay, like a colonic of some sort.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of a coffee enema?
I have heard of that.
What is a coffee enema?
I guess it's just the fluid they use to clean things out. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Oh, well, doesn't your don't your intestines really uptake nutrients and stuff? So caffeine.
It depends on which direction it's coming in. I guess. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what he believed in, baths and enemas. I doubt if he used coffee back then, but you never know.
Did he have a medical background of any kind?
I think he was a doctor.
Oh, I did
believe
not
he
know
was
that.
a medical doctor. Don't hold me to that. I'm pretty sure. But he believed in electrotherapy, so he would stimulate nerves and muscles with probably electric or electromagnetic therapy. But he believed in electrocution of the brain, too, electrostimulation, basically. So that was something that he believed in. I don't think he did a lot, but back then they believed in lobotomies.
Yeah, that's
It's
barbaric.
disgusting. And just for anybody out there in Chicks Land listening, do you want to see how barbaric it is? I put a link down there for you guys, so if you want to go look at it, you're going to be able to see one of the first lobotomies, and I want you to just say, it's gross. Just
It
saying.
sounds bad.
Oh, it is. So go check it out.
Reminds me of that movie, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah.
Where they did those frontal lobotomies on the
Yeah.
patients and
Yeah.
rendered them vegetables.
Useless.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, they do it the first ones, I'll just share this with you, they used ice picks. And they went in right in the orbit of the eye, just right above the eyeball, and stuck it in there and just twirled it around. It's just disgusting.
Wow.
But they did that quite a bit. And what they got was docile people that didn't argue a lot and didn't really engage. And they thought that that was good. To them, that was solving the problem, if you think about it.
That's a
Right?
shame.
Shut up. Shut up, sit down.
Yeah. But then you've got to house these people. You've got to feed them. If they don't have, it sounds to me like they wouldn't be able to make any decisions or fend for themselves
Right.
or live alone.
I think that's when the advent, and I'm not really sure it started then, but sanitariums, where they started dealing with people with mental problems, mental health hospitals. And I did want to talk about that because that's something that's not gone away. You know, obviously they've changed. They used to be basically torture chambers, and anybody could be put in a mental institution and like that. But I did want to talk about that from our standpoint, because we've both had situations where we've been in mental institutions of sort. So I wanted to talk about that. Did you want to share maybe your first experience?
The very initial experience was extremely frightening. They put you in a room by yourself with nothing. You're scared. You're in there for hours without talking to anybody. You don't know what's going to happen to you. And then finally they come and get you. And the time it took to just get me admitted was like 8-10 hour experience.
Too.
And you finally get a room, and
how did they treat you during that 8 to 10 hours?
nobody. I didn't see a person. I was in a room by myself with nobody. No TV, no nothing.
Did they
no
check
magazines.
in on you?
Nope.
Really?
No.
How do you think that's supposed to help mental health? Here,
It's
I'm going to
not.
throw you in a room. Let's see how that'll make you feel.
Scared to death.
Yeah,
Not knowing what to expect. Never being in one before.
right.
And that's exactly what they do.
What'd they do after that?
Well, after that, once you get out of there, it's okay. You know, you got your room. They give you breakfast. They get you involved in the routine of the day. And that after that, everything was fine.
Did they let you in your room during the day?
If I wanted to, yeah. You can go in your room if you...
Now, we're talking about the first time, right?
Yes.
What kind of facility was it? Was it a hospital?
It was a hospital.
Which one?
It's like a... It couples mental illness with addiction.
Was it that one over down the street?
Yes.
Okay. That's not a hospital. What that is a for-profit place that deals with that. So it's not a hospital institution. So they're going to treat you a little different. My experience, and this is like, we'll do comparative. You want to?
Sure.
My first experience was with a hospital. And you went in there, and the first thing they did was take away my glasses. And everything smelled like bacon. I thought that was odd.
That is odd.
But they wouldn't let you in your room during the day. They would lock you out of your room, and you had to go to these different stations. And then there was certain times where they'd let you back in your room. Huh. It was real. It made you feel like you didn't have anywhere to be. And you just had to follow them around like ducks. It was very disconcerting. It was very strange.
Did they have any positive activities that you were doing when you were out of the room, or was it just...
You know, we did a lot of coloring. I'll go back to the coloring. I cannot believe how much coloring you do when you're in a mental hospital. A lot of that. They did some aromatherapy. They did some... what was it? Yoga. Seems like yoga and meditation. But other than that, not really. There was TV time, and every once in a while they'd let you in your room for like 30 minutes. So what did you do where they put you? Or did you put you?
We didn't have that. We could go in our room anytime we wanted. But we'd have to follow the schedule of the day. So every morning they had a new schedule printed for everyone. When was your smoke break, your breakfast, the therapy after breakfast.
So they let you smoke in that place?
They had...
At the hospitals,
times.
they don't let you smoke.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah, so that's one of the things, one of the differences between the institutions. And I guess it's because... You know, hospitals have the no smoking policies now and stuff on their campuses, I guess. But that's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, so what was if you had to give one word to describe your first experience with a mental facility, what would it be?
Relief.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
It was a neat way to discover you didn't have to really drink if you didn't want to, because I never went into DTs. I never had a physical reaction to not drinking, so it was kind of cool to come out of there knowing that you don't really have to drink like you think.
Could be normal.
You can be normal without it. And I enjoyed the therapy sessions, the breakout groups, and I enjoyed the regiment of the place because it was kind of fun. You know, we had exercise time so we can go to the gym, listen to music, yoga, coloring. But some of the group therapies were pretty productive.
Right.
You know, and allowing yourself to be that. I think what I got from it was it's okay to have these feelings.
Right.
Where everybody's got some kind of...
I have to say, I stayed at the same facility you're talking about, and it was a much better experience when it came to mental health. It was still a bad experience. I was, again, in a room forever and those same experiences. But I think overall, when you look at the terrifying experiences it used to be compared to now, it's less terrifying.
Yeah, it's not like a horror movie. Those are my favorite kind.
Still kind of terrifying, though.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Well, in Bridgeport, Connecticut is where that was probably more institution than I've ever been in. But there was you were in a concrete like cinder block room
Right.
with nothing.
Right.
Just a bed, a very uncomfortable bed.
Was that your second experience?
No, third,
Really?
I think. Yeah.
So it was a hospital institution.
It was a hospital. There was.
Did they let you smoke?
No. No, there was nothing. There was no TV, no magazines, no books.
Did they let you choose your
bathroom.
food?
No, I don't think so. I don't remember. I just remember food came and it was something to do.
Right. That was one thing I noticed. The place where we went that was similar, you could not choose your food. But the hospital I went to, you could choose your food. I thought that was interesting, that they gave you control over that, which is awesome if you can have control over that. So I think it was interesting. Let's go back to the history. So Freud came along. Freud, I think he smoked 40 cigars a day.
Wow.
He got jaw cancer. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? He was a mess. But he and his daughter, I think his daughter's name was Anna Freud. Anyway, he had a patient named Anna O. And he dealt with her issues one-on-one, and his whole theory was built around this one girl.
Wow.
Anna. I know, and what he figured out was when she came in, they would do talk therapy, and when they did talk therapy, she recognized that it made her feel better, and it helped her deal with everything because she got it out and looked at it. Just look at it, like Dr. Phil says. Just look at it.
You know, it kind of reminds me of Stuart Smalley from Saturday Night Live. I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, I'm doggone it, people like
That's right.
Because there is certain affirmation when you speak something into existence. So when you speak what you're feeling, it's almost a self-affirmation.
Well, if you think about it, it was, what was it? Back in the 1800s, there was a French neurologist named Charcot, and he was doing hypnosis. So that was one of the first things they did with hysteria, was they would hypnotize you. And if you think about it, that brings you to a very relaxed state that allows you to introspect, right?
Yeah.
If you think about what it does, is a lot like meditation, but I don't know. I did hypnosis once. It was very effective, and we'll talk about that in another episode of Two Mental Chix. But right now, basically, after the hypnotist came around, Freud came through, and he and one of his colleagues, it was a Dr. Brewer, worked with this Anna O, and basically she had hysteria. That was her diagnosis, and he came to the terms with the talk therapy and really helped her a lot. She realized that there was a talking cure, basically. And so another thing that happened during Freud's time was Carl Jung, and he was the one that did archetypes, right?
I remember him from Psych 101.
He did the same thing. He had one named Sabrina Spielrein, or Spielrein. I don't know how to speak German, really, but she was thought to suffer from hysteria, and so Freud and Jung, often discussed their cases. But again, one person. They were both addressing hysteria, both with one person, which I find astounding, because nowadays in science, if you don't just find out on hundreds of people, they consider it non-science. Then these people changed the world with one case. So
that's pretty incredible, really.
It is. That's
when you
my
think
opinion.
about it.
Absolutely. And so basically they came along and did that, talked about archetypes. What do you know about archetypes? I find that fascinating.
I don't know about archetypes.
Oh, really? Well, archetypes are just basically those main concepts we have, like your mom. A mom archetype would be a real sweet person that makes cookies and, ties her hair up in a bun.
Right.
A grandma archetype would have she'd be a little poochy, and she'd make cookies and pies and hug you a lot and kiss you on the head. And those are archetypes, right?
Yeah.
Grandpa's going to take you fishing, and he's going to be the gruff man in the house. And so archetypes, I think the way Jung thought was that we are attracted to archetypes. So like, you remember Grandma and how much I loved her and how close I was. What I realized after she died was I attracted other archetypes into my life, or I was attracted to grandmas. I had several people in my life that represented grandmas to me, and we wouldn't have the same relationship, but I know I'd get a lot of the same advice from them that I would get. And it was the age, and it was, some of the same characteristics. So I think we're drawn to that.
Yeah, especially if you have somebody that's influential in your life that you looked up to and that you found nurturing and peace with, then there is a certain element of wanting to be near that person.
Yeah, no matter who represents that person, right?
Right.
If you think about it. I mean, there's some theory, and some people think, those people that believe in reincarnation, that we travel in schools. So theoretically, you and I would have experienced a different body together in another time. That's a weird way to think, isn't it?
I can't get my arms around
No,
that.
my head hurts now. Okay, we're going to move on to something else. So yeah, later, 50s and 60s, cognitive behavioral therapy became a thing. You ever heard of that?
No, not from the 50s.
I know, I never had either. Cognitive behavioral therapy is kind of like, look at it. You sit down, you identify something that is an issue, and then you come to terms with how to deal with that issue. I'm not very familiar with all of the aspects of cognitive behavioral therapy, but it's a way to address individual issues so that you can build upon that. It's a way to deal with phobias, things like that. Just changing how you react to certain situations. And in the 70s, there was a guy named Beck, and he came up with cognitive distortions. And he talked about things like hysterical contagion, which is where groups of people would start thinking in the same ways. And so it would be mass hysteria.
Interesting.
I know. Like, I can see it, like you were talking about earlier.
Look at World War II in Germany. Talk about mass hysteria.
And it's happening again.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting how mental illness can travel from one person, get institutionalized, and then travel throughout society and become a societal issue. It really is. So I'm just going to remind everybody about the lobotomy video. You really ought to check it out, because that was one of the first ways they dealt with problematic people. And mostly it was women. Before they had Mommy's Little Helper, the little yellow pills, they had the lobotomy. And it was pretty special back then. So basically, we've come to the end of another one of our awesome shows.
Yes.
Next week, we're going to talk about how our families play into mental illness, how our families play into what we do. We're going to talk about hormones and how our hormones play into different mental illnesses. And I'm looking forward to that.
Me too. That sounds like it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing more about you. I'm really enjoying hearing more about you.
Oh, well, thank you.
I've known you since '79, and I'm learning things I have not known ever.
Isn't that amazing?
It really is.
Yeah.
So I've been enjoying this. So thanks for taking the time.
No, you're welcome. Thank you.
I'm Kay.
I'm Jay.
Thanks for joining us. Y'all have a good day. Catch us next week. Bye-bye.